And now it's time for The Catch, which takes you around the Great Lakes to hear from reporters about the issues they're covering.
A group of students at Eastern Michigan University are studying a surprising aquatic species hiding out in the Great Lakes. MLive reporter Michaela Coffey has the story.
They were actually spending their first semester studying more about these freshwater jellyfish. So these students took some time doing field research in a lake in Dexter Township and went snorkeling and collected the freshwater jellyfish to come back to kind of like learn more about them.
The students saw a previous story by Michaela about the presence of jellyfish in a small pond near Brighton, Michigan. It prompted them to reach out about the research they're conducting at Pickerel Lake in Dexter Township as part of a biology class led by Professor Kara Shillington.
It was like around 17 students at Eastern Michigan University, and they spent time snorkeling, collecting, and analyzing different jellyfish that they would bring back to the university. They were able to collect 25 to 30 jellyfish in the lake, and from there they've been trying to come up with some information and come up with, I guess, answers to a lot of questions, because freshwater jellyfish seem to be an animal that not many people have all the answers to.
And while there's still a lot that's unknown about the freshwater jellyfish, one thing researchers seem to agree on, at least for now, is where they came from.
A lot of researchers seem to think that they come from the Yangtze River Valley in China, and they were transported with ornamental aquatic plants and stuff like that.
According to the Great Lakes Aquatic Non-Indigenous Species Information System, the jellyfish have been in Michigan since 1933, when they were found in the Huron River near Ann Arbor. Since then, Michaela says they've been found in bodies of water throughout Michigan, Ohio, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. But they're not always easy to spot, and that's partly because of their small size.
A lot of the times these freshwater jellyfish were the size of a dime or a nickel, so they were very small, and they never really found them close to shore, so it was more when they were swimming out into the lake, so that may be why a lot of people haven't seen them yet.
And in case you're wondering, yes, these little jellyfish are venomous like their larger sea-dwelling relatives. But because of their size, Michaela says they don't pose a serious threat to humans.
A lot of people have questions about whether or not these jellyfish are something to look out for if they're harmful, but a lot of researchers have concluded that these freshwater jellyfish aren't. They do sting, but they sting more smaller organisms like zooplankton, so humans shouldn't be worried about them in their lakes.
The construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway represents one of the most massive industrial transformations of land in North America. And now scientists are trying to understand the impact of that transformation and what it's cost the overall health of the river. CBC News reporter Verity Stevenson is covering the story in Montreal.
Every year they do a survey of the water quality of the St. Lawrence River, and it's a really complete, their goal is to make it as complete as possible.
Led by scientists from the Université de Québec à Trois-Rivières, the survey covers a total of 600 kilometers or 372 miles of the St. Lawrence River. The scientists set out with many research goals. Most are aimed at learning about contaminants and the flow of the river, which was dramatically reshaped to serve industry in the 1950s.
So there's this through line of settler societies and how they've treated, or we have treated, rivers. And the St. Lawrence is not alone in this necessarily, but it has been transformed by one of the most massive industrial projects in modern history, and that is the St. Lawrence Seaway. So basically carving out canals to bypass these rapids in the river. And what that's done is it's really altered the natural landscape of the river.
The Seaway was built in partnership with the United States and turned the riverbanks of Montreal into locks and piers for the exchange of goods from thousands of vessels each year. It was a boon for maritime business, but it also caused widespread destruction, flooding 10 Ontario communities and displacing thousands.
These are losses that are really felt for generations. And that's just part of, so it's not only in the environment that you see how it's changed the water quality, but there's also sociological effects of these transformations.
The scientists are trying to find out what changes inside the water as it travels past cities, farms, islands, ports, and factories.
They're realizing that there's connections not only between the industrialization of the river and like the sociological effects, but also all of the different environmental impacts on the river. And that includes, from municipalities, wastewater. In Montreal, we have a huge wastewater treatment plant, but it's also the only one managing the wastewater for the city, and it's very old.
Montreal's current facility filters solids and some nutrients out of the water, but Verity says a lot of contaminants, including E. coli, pharmaceuticals, and heavy metals, still make their way into the river.
One of the challenges for the water quality in the St. Lawrence and a lot of other big waterways in North America is wastewater treatment. And so there is a refurbishment of the Jean-Herb Marcotte treatment plant in Montreal that's coming. It's just that it's been delayed for 10 years. It's tripled in cost. So although it's supposed to come next year, some people are sort of skeptical of, when that will actually happen.
A new study illustrates how culturally relevant resources can improve environmental health literacy among the Great Lakes Anishinaabe population. Journalist Abigail Komar has the story for Great Lakes Echo.
So the study is a collaboration between the Medical College of Wisconsin, the Intertribal Council of Michigan, and the Chippewa-Ottawa Resource Authority in Sault Ste. Marie.
Abigail says one part of the study looks at the efficacy of an advisory program in the form of an app called Gigi'u Inan, which means Our Fish in Ojibwe. It's focused on safe fish consumption in an Indigenous cultural context.
Fish are a very important cultural resource for the Anishinaabe and a very important part of a traditional diet.
However, because of concerns over increasing mercury and PCB levels in Great Lakes fish, there are recommended limits of how much fish is safe to consume.
But these recommendations have historically been made from a culturally neutral perspective, and a culturally neutral perspective does not take into account the importance of fish in a traditional Anishinaabe diet.
The researchers who developed the Gigi'u Inan app noted how previous advisories failed to help the Anishinaabe track and understand their fish consumption. This new resource incorporates feedback from members of the Anishinaabe community to make it culturally relevant and to encourage safer practices.
This app is absolutely a signal for the way forward. It was developed with the community that it was designed for, and I think that is the only way forward in terms of health literacy, is to create resources that are made for the people who are going to use them.
At Great Lakes Now, we aim to cover the Great Lakes region and the people who live here, like you. Please follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our newsletter at greatlakesnow.org.